Leora stood in the center of the military hall, her eyes fixed on the floor. All around her, commanders, soldiers, and technicians clapped and praised her. Banners hung from the ceiling, each one celebrating her mission. She had been chosen. No, she had volunteered to fly a tiny explosive ship straight into an enemy dreadnought. It was a one-way mission. No chance of survival. Such bravery, said one of the generals. A true daughter of our stars. Leora gave a small, stiff smile. Inside, she felt nothing. No pride, no joy, only silence. She had trained all her life to be useful. Her species, the Kailari, valued strength, precision, and loyalty. Leora was small, quiet, and often clumsy. Most of her instructors called her a burden. Her peers avoided her. She was never fast enough, never sharp enough. But today, she had finally done something worthy. She had given them what they wanted. Her life. In the shadows of the hall, a human technician watched. His name was Kyle. He had arrived at the Kailari base only a month ago, part of a new cooperation program between the Alliance and the Kailari Defense Corps. Humans were not yet trusted fully, but Kyle kept his head down and did his work. Quiet. Careful. But something about this event bothered him. He watched Leora closely as she stood under the bright lights. The others cheered, but she didn't move. Her body was too still, her eyes too empty. When the ceremony ended, Leora was led away by two officers. Kyle followed at a distance. Later in the hangar, she sat alone by her ship, a small one-pilot vessel loaded with energy explosives. It looked more like a coffin than a craft. Kyle approached quietly. "Is this your ship?" he asked, keeping his voice calm. Leora turned, surprised. She nodded. "Yes, it's ready." "You're really going to fly it into their capital ship?" "That's the mission," she said flatly. "It's necessary. I can do it." Kyle sat on a crate nearby. "Why you?" She frowned. "I volunteered." "That's not what I asked," he said. "Why you?" Leora looked away. "Because I'm not important, I'm easy to replace." Kyle blinked. "That doesn't sound like honor, that sounds like punishment." Leora stood up, defensive. "You don't understand our ways." "Maybe not," Kyle said. "But I know people, and I know when someone is trying to smile while feeling broken." She said nothing. "I've read your files," Kyle added. "Your record shows you were trained in engineering, not piloting. And yet they picked you for this? Doesn't that seem strange?" Leora's mouth opened slightly, but no words came. "Someone like you," Kyle continued, "shouldn't have to die just to be noticed. That's not bravery. That's manipulation." She stepped back. "Stop talking." Kyle sighed. "Fine, but before you die for them, ask yourself, why are they so eager to let you go?" With that, he left, leaving her alone with his words. That night, Leora couldn't sleep. She lay on her bunk, staring at the ceiling. Kyle's words echoed in her mind. Why are they so eager to let you go? She had never thought about that before. Her entire life she had wanted approval, a nod, a word of praise. Her parents had died in the first wave of the war. She had no family, no name that mattered, just duty. She had believed that giving her life would give her meaning. But what if that was wrong? The next morning she went to the hangar again. Her ship was being prepped for launch. Kyle was there, checking the cooling systems. She walked up to him. "Why do you care what happens to me?" He looked up. "Because no one else here seems to." "I'm not like you," she said. "I'm not special." "That's not true," Kyle said. "You're smart, you're kind, you're just surrounded by people who never saw it." Leora bit her lip. "But it's too late. The mission is tomorrow." "Then we have one day," Kyle replied, standing. "Let's find out why they really picked you." Leora hesitated, then nodded. Together, they left the hangar and headed toward the restricted section of the base. Kyle didn't know what they would find, but he knew one thing for sure. Leora didn't deserve to die for people who never cared she lived. Leora walked quickly beside Kyle through the quiet halls of the military base. She had never gone into the restricted records section before. It was heavily monitored, and only certain ranks were allowed to enter. But Kyle had experience with security systems. Humans, after all, were good at finding paths others didn't expect. "Are you sure this will work?" she asked in a low voice. He nodded. "I've seen their system. It's not as strong as it looks. If we're fast and quiet, we'll get in and out before anyone notices." Leora's heart beat faster, not out of fear, but something else. For the first time, someone was walking beside her, not in front of her, not giving orders, just helping. They reached a locked door with silver lines running through its frame. Kyle pulled out a small device from his tool belt. It blinked 3 times, then turned green. The door opened with a soft click. Inside, rows of glowing panels lined the walls. Names, missions, and reports flashed across the screens in alien text. Kyle typed quickly, searching by Leora's ID number. He found it. "There," he pointed. Leora stepped closer. Her file appeared. Mission history, training scores, psychological reports. Most of it she already knew. But then Kyle opened a hidden tab. Candidate selection notes. The words burned into her eyes. "Subject is emotionally detached, displays low self-worth. Suggest use for high-risk honor mission to improve morale across lower ranks. If subject refuses, apply cultural pressure through public praise." Her voice caught in her throat. "They picked me," she whispered, "because they knew I wouldn't say no, because I wanted to be accepted." Kyle nodded slowly. "They didn't see bravery. They saw weakness and used it." Leora stepped back from the screen. Her hands trembled. Everything she believed in, her people, her mission, her so-called honor, felt like sand slipping through her fingers. "Is this how they treat all who are different?" she asked. "Maybe not all," Kyle said. "But enough. You were never supposed to come back from that mission, and they were fine with that." Leora turned to him. "Then what do I do now?" He looked at her. "Live." They exited the room, quietly. No alarms. No one stopped them. It was as if the truth didn't matter to the system, but it mattered to her. Later, they sat near the edge of the training field, under the tall metal towers where soldiers usually practiced flight maneuvers. "I trained for years," Leora said. "Trying to prove myself. I thought, maybe if I gave them everything, they would finally see me." "They only see what fits their story," Kyle replied. "But you don't have to fit into their version of you." She looked at him, confused. "What do you mean?" "You can choose who you are," he said. "You don't have to be what they expect. You don't have to die just to be seen." Silence followed. Leora lowered her head. "But if I say no now, they'll call me a coward." "So what?" Kyle shrugged. "Let them talk. You'll still be alive. And maybe someone else like you will see your choice and realize they have a choice too." She thought about that, a choice. No one had ever given her one before. Not really. She had always followed orders, followed rules. But this was different. This was hers. That evening, a group of high-ranking Kelari officers called her into the command chamber. The lights were dim, the room silent except for the hum of energy panels. "We are proud of you," one of them said. Another added, "The mission will bring great honor to your name." Leora stood straight. Her voice was calm but firm. "I'm not doing it." The room fell silent. A third officer narrowed his eyes. "What did you say?" "I'm not flying that mission," she repeated. "You wanted me to die, not because I was the best choice, but because I was easy to forget. I won't let you use me like that." Anger filled the room. They shouted, questioned her loyalty, accused her of dishonor. But Leora did not move. Kyle stepped forward from behind the door. "She's telling the truth. I saw the records." One officer slammed his hand on the table. "You are an outsider. You have no right to—" "I have the right to speak the truth," Kyle interrupted. There was chaos. Words clashed. Commands were thrown. But in the end, nothing could erase what had been said. The truth was out. Leora walked out of the chamber, with her head held high. She didn't feel ashamed. She felt free. That night, while she sat alone, Kyle joined her with 2 steaming cups of kelroot tea. He handed her one. "You stood up to them," he said. "That takes real courage." She smiled, a small but real smile. "I think I understand now. Dying for the wrong people isn't bravery. Living for yourself. Maybe that's the real strength." Kyle nodded. "Exactly." The stars above shimmered, quiet, peaceful. For the first time in her life, Leora looked up and didn't wish to disappear. She was still here, and that mattered. The base was quieter after Leora refused the mission. Some officers avoided her. Others glared when she passed. Whispers followed her in the halls. The ones who had once praised her now acted like she was invisible, or worse, a problem. But Leora didn't feel weak anymore. Kyle stayed close. He never told her what to do. He only listened and gave her space when she needed it. That helped more than he knew. One morning, while repairing a training drone, Kyle received a message from a human contact in the Joint Intelligence Office. It included a list of old mission logs, files from years before, locked away and hidden. Leora met him in the maintenance bay. "You found something?" she asked, wiping oil off her hands. "Yes," Kyle said, lowering his voice. "Not just about you. Others. Many others." He handed her a small data chip. They went back to Kyle's room and locked the door. The small screen on his wall came, alive with old files, hidden reports, and names. So many names. Subject Z9. Emotionally unstable, no family. Considered for morale-based death mission. Subject V3. Scored low in physical training. Volunteered after being isolated by peers. Subject M14. Assigned to suicide squad. No psychological support offered. Leora's chest tightened. These weren't heroes. These were forgotten souls, just like her. Dozens of Kaelari who were pushed to volunteer. Not because they were the best, but because they were lonely, ignored, and easier to convince. She found a file labeled Public Morale Strategy. Inside were notes from high officers. It said the people felt proud when weaker members gave their lives. It restored faith in the system. "They used our pain," Leora said, her voice shaking. "They turned it into a show." Kyle nodded. "And they hoped no one would ever read this." She stared at the screen, the faces of the others in her mind. "We have to tell someone," Kyle agreed. "But we need proof, real proof, not just digital files." "What kind of proof?" she asked. "There's a room below the archives, an old war memory vault. They keep hard copies there, voice logs, personal reports. If we find original files, they can't say we made it up." Leora took a deep breath. "Then let's go." Late that night, they entered the deepest level of the base. Most people thought the vaults were useless now. Old tech. Forgotten. But forgotten things hold truth. The vault smelled of dust and energy residue. Kyle used his tools to bypass the locks again. Inside were shelves of crystal memory sticks and recording devices, each one labeled with old dates and mission codes. They searched in silence. After almost 2 hours, Leora found it. A voice log. Commander Vecron, one of the highest-ranking officers in Kaelari history. She played it. Subject Leora shows signs of desperation. Perfect candidate. Her sacrifice will lift morale among the junior ranks. No need to explain all details. Frame it as honor. Leora's eyes filled with tears, but not from sadness, from anger. From strength, they copied the voice log and attached it to the digital files. "I want to send this to everyone," she said. "Not just the base, the entire Kaelari network." Kyle paused. "They might try to stop you." She stood taller. "Then let them try." The next day, using Kyle's communication access and her own codes, Leora uploaded the files. The truth. The voices, the names, everything. She sent it not only to soldiers but to families, schools, medical stations, civilian networks. In 1 hour, it spread across the system, and in 2 hours, the silence broke. Messages poured in. My cousin was on that list. We were told she died a hero. This is not honor, this is control. We believed lies. The base command was in chaos. Officers rushed to meetings. Alarms rang across different sectors. Not from danger, but from truth. They tried to shut the system down. But the files had already been copied and re-uploaded. Too many times. Too many places. It could not be stopped. Leora stood on a balcony overlooking the city below the base. People gathered in the streets, watching the news on large screens. Her face was there now, not as a tool, but as someone who told the truth. Kyle joined her. You did it. She nodded slowly. We did. He smiled. They'll come after us. Maybe not today, but soon. I know, she said. But it was worth it. He looked at her. Are you afraid? Leora took a long breath. No, not anymore. The wind moved gently around them. For the first time, it felt clean, like something had been washed away. Leora had once been ready to die for her people. Now she was ready to live for the truth, and that changed everything. The Kalari base was tense. Screens flashed with urgent messages, and officers argued loudly in conference rooms. Leora's revelation had shaken everything. In the chaos, Kyle and Leora stayed in the maintenance hangar. Soldiers rarely came there during emergencies, so it was safe. Leora stared at the ship that was meant to take her life, now grounded and silent. It was hard to believe she had almost accepted such a mission. Kyle stood near a console, quietly, repairing a drone to keep himself busy. He knew thinking too much could make him anxious. He glanced at Leora. She had grown stronger in the past days, more confident, and he admired her for it. Suddenly, the doors opened. Several soldiers entered, weapons down but wary. Kyle stood protectively in front of Leora. Relax, said one of the soldiers. We're not here to hurt anyone. The council wants you both. Kyle glanced at Leora, who nodded carefully. They were escorted calmly through hallways filled with curious eyes. When they entered the council chamber, commanders and generals stood in a tight circle, their faces grim. Commander Vecron spoke first. Leora, Kyle, you caused a major disruption. Many see you as heroes, others as traitors. Leora met his eyes directly. We only shared the truth. Vecron sighed deeply, then looked away. The truth can be dangerous. Our people need unity, especially now. Kyle shook his head. Unity built on lies isn't real. Another general stepped forward. That mission was essential. Without it, the enemy dreadnought will strike us soon. Thousands will die. Leora's heart tightened. She had almost forgotten the real threat. Then let's find another way. A mission that doesn't need someone's life. You have a plan? Vecron asked doubtfully. Yes, Kyle said quickly, surprising everyone. We sabotage the dreadnought remotely. Leora knows their tech systems intimately. She studied their patterns extensively. I know human methods for covert sabotage. Together we can do this safely. Murmurs rose among the officers. Vecron frowned, hesitant but intrigued. You are certain? Leora stepped forward confidently. Let us try. We have nothing to lose by attempting a mission without sacrificing a life. After tense moments, Vecron nodded once. Very well. You have 24 hours. If you fail, we must prepare for heavy losses. Outside, Kyle and Leora moved quickly to a lab, reviewing all enemy data. Hours passed, filled with endless simulations, calculations, and technical adjustments. Late into the night, Leora rubbed her tired eyes. There's still a gap. The dreadnought's shields adapt fast. We have to be faster. Kyle thought deeply, staring at the glowing screens. Then his eyes brightened. What if we overload their shield cores remotely? If we time it perfectly, we can create a power loop. It's risky, but it could disable them completely. Leora's fingers flew across the control panel. Simulations flashed green. It was possible. Dangerous, but possible. We can do this, she whispered, amazed. Kyle smiled reassuringly. Yes, we can. The next morning, they prepared carefully. Every detail mattered. Officers, technicians, and soldiers crowded around screens, watching their every move. This was a new kind of heroism, untested and uncertain. Ready? Kyle asked gently. Ready, Leora said. Heart steady now. She activated the control system. On screens everywhere, the enemy dreadnought appeared, dark and powerful, slowly approaching Kailari space. She carefully initiated the sabotage codes. Kyle monitored enemy responses, adjusting instantly whenever defenses changed. Time stretched painfully. Sweat formed on Leora's forehead, but her hands remained steady. Kyle quietly called out adjustments, keeping her focused and calm. Suddenly, alarms flashed. The enemy's shield cores surged, glowing wildly. It's happening, Leora shouted, surprised by her own voice. Kyle moved quickly. Hold steady, almost there. Then, silence. All watched breathlessly. The dreadnought shuddered violently. Energy flared, then dimmed completely. It drifted powerless in space, shields gone, weapons offline. They had done it. Cheers erupted around them. Soldiers who had once avoided Leora rushed forward, celebrating openly. Even Vecron, stern and guarded, nodded respectfully. You did well, he admitted quietly. We never considered such a plan. Leora faced him bravely. Maybe you should have. Lives don't need to be lost to achieve victory. Vecron's eyes softened. Perhaps it's time for us all to reconsider old ways. As celebrations continued, Kyle and Leora found a quiet corner of the lab, away from crowds. Leora breathed deeply, feeling lighter than ever before. You showed them, Kyle said gently, proud of her. No, she smiled warmly. We showed them. Kyle smiled back. You're right. Outside, news spread rapidly. The Kailari people learned of the victory. But this time, it wasn't a victory built on sacrifice. It was built on courage, intelligence, and compassion. Leora felt her world changing, and for once it was for the better. She turned to Kyle, her eyes bright with a new kind of strength. I think today, I finally know what it means to really live. He nodded warmly. I think you always knew. You just needed to see it yourself. She laughed softly, her heart full and free. Together, they stepped into the sunlight, leaving shadows far behind. The mission intended to take her life had instead given her one. Days passed and Kailari society slowly changed. News of the sabotage mission spread across planets and colonies. For the first time, Kailari citizens questioned their traditions. They talked openly about what bravery truly meant. Leora became a hero, not because she was willing to die, but because she chose to live. Her courage inspired thousands who had felt lost or unseen. Yet at the base, things remained complicated. Those who had praised her when she volunteered for death now avoided her eyes. Officers who once shook her hand turned away in embarrassment. Their shame showed clearly in their silence. Kyle stood by Leora through everything, giving her the quiet, strength she needed. One afternoon they walked together through the city below the base. Streets buzzed with new energy as people smiled warmly at Leora. They thanked her openly and genuinely. You did this, Kyle said softly, watching people wave from balconies. No, Leora corrected him gently, smiling. We did this together. As they continued walking, a small Kailari child ran toward her, holding out a handmade flower. For you, the child said shyly. Thank you for being brave. Leora knelt, accepting the gift gently. Thank you, she whispered, touched deeply. Remember, bravery isn't about losing yourself, it's about believing in who you truly are. The child nodded, eyes wide with understanding, then ran back to their parents. Kyle smiled warmly. They won't forget you. Leora's eyes glowed with quiet pride. They won't forget themselves either. Back at the base, Commander Vecron summoned Leora privately. She entered his office cautiously, unsure what he might say. Sit down, he gestured politely. His voice was calm and careful. I owe you an apology. Leora sat slowly, surprised. We've failed you, Vecron admitted honestly. We valued the wrong things. We forgot that true strength isn't about sacrifice, but about compassion and wisdom. Leora listened quietly, her heart softening. She had never imagined hearing this from him. I was foolish, Vecron continued softly. Regretful. I used honor as an excuse to overlook pain. That was wrong. She took a gentle breath. Thank you for saying that, Commander. But words are easy. Actions matter. Vecron nodded seriously. Agreed. That's why I've recommended new guidelines. Missions that risk lives must be fully transparent. No more hidden motives. No more sacrificing our weakest members. Change starts now. Leora stood, genuinely moved. I believe you. As she left the office, Kyle waited patiently outside. He read her face immediately. Did he mean it? He did, she replied softly, smiling. It's a beginning. Over the following weeks, the Kalari saw real change. The council openly announced reforms. Schools began teaching compassion alongside duty. The old traditions that praised blind sacrifice slowly faded, replaced by respect for life. One peaceful evening, Leora and Kyle stood at the edge of the landing pad, gazing out at the stars. The galaxy stretched out before them, endless and full of possibilities. You know, Kyle said quietly, the Alliance invited me back. They want a full report on our cooperation. Your people could join too, if they wish. Leora looked at him thoughtfully. Will you return? He hesitated, then met her eyes warmly. Only if you'll come with me. She laughed softly. I think the Kalari can manage without me now. I would like to see your world. Kyle smiled warmly. Then let's make it happen. Days later, they boarded a sleek transport ship heading to Earth. Citizens gathered, cheering loudly. This time their cheers were real, genuine, and grateful. Stay brave, Leora, someone shouted warmly. She smiled back, feeling strong and whole. As the ship left Kalari space, Kyle and Leora sat side by side, watching their home fade into the stars. You changed them, Kyle said softly. We changed each other. She corrected gently. That's what really matters. Earth soon appeared, bright and beautiful. The human world was busy, alive with possibilities, different from anything Leora had known. But she felt no fear, only excitement. When they landed, humans greeted them warmly, eager to hear their story. Kyle introduced her to colleagues, friends, and leaders. Everywhere they went, she saw respect and kindness. One night beneath Earth's clear skies, Leora turned to Kyle. You once said I was foolish for not seeing my own worth. He nodded softly. I did. You were right, she whispered, gently. But I understand now. It wasn't just that they didn't deserve me. It was also that I deserved more. Kyle took her hand warmly. You always did. The days became weeks, filled with laughter, learning, and healing. Leora spoke, at human events, sharing her journey and inspiring others who felt unseen or alone. Humans and Kalari began exchanging ideas, working together toward a brighter future. Months later, on a peaceful morning, Leora and Kyle received a message from Kalari leadership. Because of you, our people learned to see value in each other's lives, not just their sacrifices. Thank you. Leora felt deep peace. Are you happy? Kyle asked, watching her read the message. She nodded softly, smiling fully and freely. I've never been happier. Under Earth's gentle sky, she finally understood the meaning of true bravery. It wasn't about what one gave up, but about what one chose to hold on to. Life, love, truth. And standing beside Kyle, feeling strong, seen, and cherished, Leora knew she had chosen well.